It could be so easy to underestimate a simple little game about being a cat or a dog just fishing on a small island that has graphics like this, and to be confused how just that can garner this much praise and attention in just under a single month. For those of you who know, this is of course web fishing, but for those of you who don't know, this might just look like an Animal Crossing clone, but web fishing is much better than you even realize. Web fishing is a cuter, charming fishing game all centered around collecting, customizing, and chatting with other players. While I did find out about this game a while before its release, once it finally came out for no more than a price of an old school Subway footlong or a coffee, it was an immediate buy, but for not just me, for everybody. Massive people unleashed to the floodgates, buying this game, already racking up 50 plus hours and forming this culture, this community in the game almost immediately. I love everything about web fishing, and today I will do my best to explain enough for you to hopefully recommend you this game, and by the end of this video, if you don't have it already, to buy it. Web fishing is so many things, but one of the main reasons we come to play does boil down to just good old fishing mechanics. Fishing in video games does have this spectrum of being alright compared to the best. Entire simulators dedicated to realistic fishing styles, or we'll have the fishing modes in non-focused fishing games. For example, Persona 5 has a great fishing minigame. Every single MMO has fishing, and Stardew Valley has one of the most iconic ones. It's essential for a lot of games, but genuinely gamers do love these fishing mini segments. So, web fishing takes that mini segment. While not realistic in mechanics like the simulators, it's arcadey and charming like all the other games that I mentioned, but it's making its own premise, its own style. It's closely related to Animal Crossing, the similar aesthetic, the feel of the fish, but emphasized into this much more intricate scale. The fishing is really fun. Granted, that's one of the main reasons for its success. The old school style of gameplay with the modern quality of life improvements allow for that repetition of its fishing to be super enjoyable. It's a simple form, just casting your line, picking the angle, the length, dropping it in, waiting for a bite, and then to reel it in, you hold your left click, fill up a bar, mash if any obstacles are in your way, and boom, you got yourself your first web fishing fish. It's good. It doesn't need more than it has, but I do see it getting cleaner and more refined with updates, so since this was only recorded about a month after its release, this has the potential to be a lot cleaner later on. One of my favorite aspects of web fishing is its random set of goals, and it has a shit ton along with just how many insane unlockables you can collect. Catch all of the types of fish, catch all the types of fish in each rarity, catch them bigger, catch them smaller, unlock every type of rod, every type of lure, every type of bait, every type of everything. This shit never ends. You're unlocking a MILF t-shirt at 30 hours into the game because goddamn man, I love fishing. This is important for web fishing though. Options and reasons to collect, reasons to play solo or to brag and show your friends or the random people on the server. They even provide that by having these titles that every player can put under their name. So you have your name and then your title or your subcaption. And some of them can only be unlocked by certain things, like when you catch the best fish in a game, the golden bass or golden manta ray. It's just this onslaught of collecting little bits of fun items and then to fish constantly to always keep you engaged while you're talking to friends and strangers and just fishing. This game is really rewarding for that completionist gamer part of your mind, but it's also very important for our next segment, the chill gamers. So web fishing can get very relaxing at times, and I think this slightly goes overlooked just how simple this game can get. Sometimes you want to keep collecting, or you're just laughing your ass off at someone in the chat drunk and seeing interesting furry art. Oh, well, we'll get to that later. But hopefully I can explain it properly. But with all of this, as I've already said, web fishing is the perfect cozy game that I think I've ever played. Now, my favorite chill games, they're normally like A Short Hike, which has very similar graphical styles, and Attack of the Friday Monsters for the 3DS. See, both of these offer me that relaxing nature when it comes to aesthetic and atmosphere, but I find that web fishing out of those three is the easiest to come back to, almost more rewarding for me to come back to, even if I'm doing nothing. At first it started with the fishing, sitting on the bridge, maybe side by side with a person, fishing away by a nice waterfall, only worried about what's on the end of my hook, or The awesome fact of discovering that you can enter the lighthouse, appearing to glance over this familiar cozy island, seeing that infinite ocean living on its own, just watching the time go by. Now that's our traditional relaxing cozy game environment idea. And this game does it super well. But then you find yourself in an even better lobby, maybe a different one full of people, and suddenly you're sitting next to a group of strangers, listening to one of them play a weird version of Hoobastank's The Reason, all sitting together just trying to fish. Then suddenly the silly cat goes fishing Animal Crossing clone game turns into the best afternoon on a game you've had in quite some time. But Webfishing not only perfected that, but also the online chat room experience. Here's a quick rundown. What is an online chat room? Online chat rooms can either be really godsend memories or just the most terrible, toxic, slurred-filled chats by a bunch of lonely dudes. The ideal place of a chat room is random online pockets of the internet where people of all kinds or specific kinds and types and places converse with whatever topic, whatever kind of topic, stemming from utter bullshit to some of the greatest conversations you will unironically ever have. Chat rooms don't necessarily have to be video games though. There were some of the first real uses for the internet back in 25 plus years ago. This isn't some new thing. As far as video game chat rooms go too, we've had multiple forms of it. TeamSpeak for comms, the random forums for gamers to talk in even older games that had no way of talking like it does in Webfishing or with voice chat. For example, Quake had that exactly, or the actual in-game communications like the MMOs or something like Club Penguin. There were tons of different ways for chat rooms to go through, and all this cultivating for its own culture, and Webfishing is no different. Webfishing is one of the greatest uses for an online chat room in recent years, honestly, in my opinion, for video games, and I think I stand by that. It could be arguable, of course. I think it's difficult to beat something like VR chat, but even then, with VR chat being free and all, I think the small price and restrictions that Webfishing allows for more of that simplistic atmosphere and conversations to be held makes it kind of set itself apart. Webfishing though already has a crazy culture, so let's dive into that. Of course, you find yourself gathered around the main lake fishing with strangers, talking about taking LSD or what your career is, but there is so many in-game mechanics that add to that webfishing culture and builds it other than just talking. One of my favorites being the hilarious addition of alcohol and gambling. Now, I'm not promoting gambling in this video, please, no, YouTube. But in Webfishing, it can lead to some of the most amazing moments. Like one of my first lobbies ever, I met a couple of people gambling with scratch-offs in the corner of the map, drinking tons of bottles of wine. I didn't know about this corner of the map for a couple hours into the game, and I didn't know where to buy the wine. One of them even gifted me 300 bottles of red wine, gifted me some tickets to scratch. So scratching tickets, asking other players to kiss their scratch for better luck, drinking the in-game beer, and then watching your movement and your speech and chat actually become lopsided and slurred was hilarious. Or how I mentioned earlier, a whole group of fishers by the lake, with there always being that one guy that has this nice guitar playing some random popular song like Hoobastank or Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody. Shits and giggles aside, the fan base is already forming strong, especially with LGBTQ plus communities and a strong furry presence, since players can buy this chalk item and they can draw on some of the select spots in the ground on the map. One lobby, I even recorded this time lapse of someone drawing a furry dick while everyone crowded around because we just couldn't believe this person was actually an artist, and they delivered. There are constantly moments like this in random lobbies, just people ganging up and then starting their own form of identities that you won't be able to predict unless you get in. The craziest culture and lore building we have yet is the infamous Grinchers. Now, maybe in some games you've seen a couple players named Grincher, or maybe it was referred to as Null. One of these you probably have seen if you played Webfishing. There's these players, or maybe it's just one guy who made this bot that would hop into lobbies just to exit the said lobby, and then rejoin, and then exit again, rejoin again, and so on, until the lobby stops. While they're not harmful anymore, to my knowledge at least, for a short bit, they would scrape player information and, on a rare occasion, delete players' data in that lobby with the bot. It was pretty fucked up. Luckily, I didn't get infected, but I currently do have a glitch where I can't see my money in the shop section, so it's just naturally funny to blame the Grincher for a second, even if it's the devs. Now, these are just the main focal points behind the origin of the culture that I'm seeing being formed in web fishing, and it's just wonderful. With a strong sense of community like this, the best we can hope for is an even stronger developing team to back this up, hold strong and update the game, adding more items, quests, events, which leads to my next segment and my final one. Web fishing is the next Club Penguin. Okay, to quickly inform you, the impact Club Penguin had on the internet and the gaming landscape has to be studied. But with its tremendous downfall, thanks to Disney of course, there hasn't been anything like it since, in my opinion. Club Penguin was pretty massive all throughout its lifespan. With the insane fan base, the developers were so solid with its updates and its events, players creating its own lore and its own role plays, good times, and these lifelong friendships, with lore like flipping the iceberg or the ninjas. We don't get this in many games, or at least it's really rare to have something like that. But honestly, hear me out for a second. I think web fishing is doing exactly that. Almost like this modern version of Club Penguin. The fun, familiar home of the island, the shops, the great customization, the early build of lore, not just by the players, but by the actual game itself, is so Club Penguin coded. Sometimes while playing randomly in a chat, there will be a thick blue text saying something ominous like, "What was that?" or "What happened?" And soon after, if you look up, you see a meteor flying into the distance, and it normally lands into one of the spots onto the, I think it's some of the lakes. And then you can fish for like a meteor fish, and a cursed dog fish comes out of it if you can be the first to grab it. So to have this potential and creative abilities and random things like that is outstanding for a game like this. And if we get these small consistent updates and hopefully some rare big events, I can see web fishing having a presence in this space so uniquely for the next decade. With everything that I said, at the end of the day, web fishing is greater than you may think, and I love this game, already putting about 25 hours in, making it probably my favorite indie game of the year. Web fishing has staying power, I can attest to that, and I can't wait to see what this cute little fishing game has in store. So let me know what you think. After this video, if you don't have it already, are you thinking about buying web fishing? Anyways, thanks for watching this shit. It's been Rocks. Alright, peace.